My name is Jennifer Goddard, and I'm a parent of a 9-year-old. Well, now he's just 10, who lives in Brooklyn. Um, my son August attends PS 216 out here in Sheepshead Bay, and he's not with me here in the car, even though I'm running errands to his favorite place in the world, Petco, because we don't risk bringing him out into in large indoor areas that have large groups of people in them. So he pretty much does everything outside with his friends. Luckily, we live in a building with lots of kids and a pool, so we're good. But obviously the preference is to be able to bring my son places and not have to worry about him catching COVID. He's especially vulnerable to health issues, health complications, should he catch something like COVID. That's a respiratory virus. And I know this because I watched him struggle for breath when he was 8 years old, and he caught the flu and, was nearly hospitalized. If the prednisone and the Tamiflu hadn't worked, the next stop, I shouldn't say stop, the rush would have been to get him to an ER because he could not breathe. And his rescue inhaler was just not reaching his lungs. It just wasn't working. So sending him to school is obviously not an option if I can't even bring him to Petco without fearing, for his safety. He has asthma. He has an overactive immune disorder, and neither of these health conditions are listed in the exhaustive list that the mayor released earlier this week in the parent handbook for safely reopening, emphasis on the word safely. And unfortunately, he chose to ignore 14% of the student population under the age of 12 who cannot be vaccinated and have asthma, something he very well knows, should be aware of, because the DOE has an extensive asthma program in which my son participated, called Open Airways, where children learn how to use their rescue inhalers in elementary school. They are in constant communication with their school nurse. This is a formal Department of Education program. So they're very aware of the fact that they have a lot of children, young children, who have asthma and have particularly special health requirements and needs. So to ignore them in this parent handbook is not a mistake. It's a convenient oversight, right? 77,000 children, I'm estimating, based on the DOE's numbers that they released of, was it 1.1 million? We haven't gotten updated numbers yet of what the total student population is in New York City. But if you think that, if you say 550,000 of them are elementary age, which is half of the student population, and of that age, 14% have asthma, well, then you come around 80,000 students. That's a lot of students to ignore. You're ignoring the pleas of a lot of parents. You're ignoring the concerns of a lot of parents. And disproportionately so, I'm sorry to say, in a place like the Bronx, where I have very gratefully teamed up with such an amazing group of parents who have organized up there, the Bronx Parent Leader Advocacy Group. I am so grateful to them. I read about them in a news article and contacted them immediately because I felt like they shared my concerns. A great majority of their children have the exact conditions that the mayor has chosen to ignore. And unfortunately, a lot of these children have already been through so much. The people who say kids need to be back in school, haven't they, missed their friends? Haven't they missed being in school? Yes, they have. They've sacrificed a lot for adults to be safe. Back when we thought it was kids don't get COVID, then it was kids get COVID, but they don't get it so bad. And then it was, oh, but kids get COVID, but they also get lots of other things, right? This is what one of the parents in this group that we've been talking about, Dr. Marie Will, said so eloquently in a group text. There's always been this gaslighting about how COVID impacts children. And, my kid has sacrificed a lot in the past almost 2 years now for the safety of his people, like grandparents who are vulnerable and were dying in disproportionate numbers when the pandemic first started. And now it's our turn to care for them because they're the ones who are the fastest group. These children represent the fastest group of people who are being hospitalized with COVID when you adjust for population. These children, healthy or not, whether they have asthma or not, there are healthy children in pediatric ICUs currently in the south of the United States, right? There we've got reports of, what is it, Dallas, or was it Houston? I think it was Houston's pediatric hospital, which is like the biggest in the country, running out of ICU beds in their pediatric ward. So if that doesn't scare you in New York City, I don't know what will. I don't know how to reach the politicians in charge of running this city right now. You have access to far more data than I do, right? I have to rely on Google, the news, your own websites where I get the information, like on nyc.gov, about the health stats, about how many children under the age of 12 in New York City have or have had asthma, right? So these are your stats. And so I have to assume that you have this information in front of you, and yet you are still plodding along on this train wreck of an idea, this plan A, right? Who on earth would have only a plan A going into, like, I plan children's birthday parties and I have plan B, right? Should it rain in my outdoor event, I have to have a backup plan, don't I? How can you plan to welcome 1.1 million students? And I doubt it's that much. I'm sure the numbers are going to be far lower than that, right? Because parents like me are like, I'm not trusting you with my child. The way you're acting, the way you're talking, the things that you're releasing, none of this is making me feel better. In fact, it's just convincing me even more that you don't know or you don't care. And that's even worse. If you don't care and you're still plodding forward with this plan A, then you are criminally negligent. You are no better than some of the politicians that ran this country into 600,000 dead Americans. Okay? You're no better. In fact, you're worse, because you have seen what happens when leaders fail to plan and fail to communicate accurate and transparent, real data and make decisions based on that. Not ego, not political ego, not, oh, well, I said it in May, so now we have to all go through with it. Because I'm not going to go through with it. I'm going to choose my kid's life every single time. Every time. That's my job. So you need to do your job, which is what you were elected to do. And you have to take care of the citizens of this city, young, old, whatever. Because I will make it my life's mission to make you answer for whatever happens come September 13th to children whose parents maybe have no choice. I don't know what parent is going to send their child to school, the schools that you claim are safe, on September 13th, but I'm not one of them. And I know many parents just like me who will not. This isn't a game. I don't get a second chance, right? The way my child couldn't breathe, I had to bring him downstairs in a grocery shopping cart that we use, little grocery getter carts. He couldn't even walk to the car when he had the flu. And I know he had the flu because he was tested for it. He was also vaccinated for it, something he doesn't have the luxury of with COVID. It's something none of the children that you are sending to school, elementary schools, on September 13th, none of them have that luxury. Okay? So you're sending unvaccinated children for 6 hours at a time into a classroom that may have anywhere from 23 to 30 children. Bananas. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. You won't even let adults who are unvaccinated sit in a movie theater for 2 hours. So don't tell me it's totally cool to send my kid to a classroom where, and not even just a classroom. Here you're talking about you have these filtrations, non-HEPA filtration. CDC guidelines say not to have HEPA. You were like, let's spend $40 million on non-HEPA. Dude, if I drop $300 right now on a filtration system, you can bet your butt it's going to be HEPA. Because A, that's smart, and B, that's what the CDC recommends. But not for you, right? Like, I just can't even anymore. I can't even talk anymore. I feel like I'm talking to I feel like I'm trying to have a conversation with a crazy person on the subway. It's just a losing proposition. You just don't engage because you're never going to win the argument, right? Like, you guys are acting like crazy people. You guys are acting like people who don't make sense, who say things where it's like opposite land. And you're like, but that's not what's happening. You're gaslighting. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why I feel like I'm talking to a crazy person. You're gaslighting us, telling us everything's safe. The classrooms are safe. Okay, let's go with that ridiculous presumption that the classrooms are safe with non-HEPA filters and 30 children unvaccinated in them. Let's go with that. What about the cafeteria? What about lunchtime? How does my child eat, take his mask off, in a lunchroom filled with, let's say it's just his grade, 150, 200 students, and you have no contact tracing because you don't have assigned seats, because this year you're going to focus on mental health. This is like a recipe. I mean, I know I don't have to lay this out for you. I know I have friends who work at the DOE. They're smart. They're smart people. I worked with them for years when I worked at, another youth organization. I know they're smart. Whoever you have advising you, you're ignoring them because I know you're getting sound advice from someone. There's one person, 2 people, 3 people around you at the DOE telling you this is a bad idea. We have to offer remote, at least until we can get these children vaccinated, at least until we can get the children who have asthma vaccinated. This is a recipe for catastrophic failure. You are going to make the front page news for willfully injuring, if not killing, hundreds, if not thousands of children in New York City. I'm not Chicken Little here running around saying that the sky's about to fall. We can just turn on the news and see what's going on in Florida. We can turn on the news and see what's going on in Texas. Like, New York City doesn't have this big magnetic field around it that protects it from getting this. You know what I mean? Again, I feel like I'm talking with the person on the train who you don't want to make eye contact with, right? Now I feel like I'm back in this conversation of trying to educate and use logic where it will not prevail. So anyway, my spiel that I have done that I was going to give here, that I gave to the panel on educational policy, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. I made a plea. And I don't know who I'm making the plea to now. Hopefully, we're not talking to the choir in this. There are hopefully one of you in government, at the DOE, in places of upper leadership, the chancellor, whomever. Hopefully one of you will hear this and be like, okay, fine. You don't want to call it remote option so you can save face. Fine. Call it digital platforms like you did the other day. Okay? Offer it on digital platforms. Whatever name you need to give it, the hokey pokey, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. As long as my child can continue to learn safely, not exposed to other children and adults who may have this virus, As long as you can offer me that, I don't care. Like, I may even one day forgive you for this stress and anxiety that you've put us all through leading up to school reopening. I may forgive you one day, but I'm not going to forget it. I'm going to tell you that. So whatever political aims you have beyond this moment, I'm here to break your heart, but I will make it my life's mission after I'm done with this life's mission to remind everyone what a horrible, horrible plan A you had for opening in the middle of a 100-year pandemic. This isn't funny. Like, none of this is amusing. Like, you have these press conferences and you're like, it's all fine, it's all great. And it's like, at first I laugh because I'm like, it's that moment, that awkward moment on the train where you're like, this is really crazy. Is this person serious? And then you start to think, I got to move because of danger. Like, I got to get off of this subway car because it's about to go down. But this isn't a subway car, right? This is my kid. This is my kid's education, and he has a free public right education, right? He has a right to it, and you're denying it because of his health issues. And FYI, that's a 504 accommodation violation right there. 1973 Rehabilitation Act. You are denying my child the right to a free public education because his health issues are such that if I go to his pediatrician, if you say, oh, we can do remote learning if you have a doctor's note, I can get you multiple doctor's notes right now. Pediatrician, pulmonologist, immunologist. I can get you all three of them on paper. The allergist, however many doctor's notes you want, I can get them. You violated his right to a free public education by making him choose making me choose, because I'm the parent, right? I'm the adult in this equation, making me choose between his health and his education. So I'm going to choose what? Homeschooling? Great. Thanks. I'm not a teacher. Like, you're putting an additional hardship on me. Private school? Great. I don't have the money to send him to that. But not to worry. I can sue you for that money, can't I? Right? I can sue you for violating 14th Amendment rights, can't I? Yes, I can. And I will. I'm done. I'm done with this. I've my taxes. I paid for your salaries, your government salaries, your mayor salaries, your chancellor salaries. I've paid for all your salaries. I've paid for my teachers' education salaries over in the building my kid goes to. That's what I want. I want it remotely until my kid can be vaccinated. I'm not saying something that's bizarre here. I'm not saying something out of line. I'm not speaking out of turn. I'm a parent and I have a right to feel like whomever is watching my child during the day, whoever is educating my child during the day, I have to be able to trust that they're going to make mature, sound, professional, reasoned decisions with his safety. And right now, you are proving to me time and time and time again that you cannot. Last year's reopening was a unmitigated disaster. Enough so that you had the union head of the school administrators giving you a vote of no confidence. You and your DOE, the mayor and the DOE, no confidence from leadership, school leadership. That is what you had last year. And I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be way worse this year because the COVID of last year was like a Disney movie compared to this COVID. This is a nightmare. This is every parent's nightmare. Everything we were all fearing last year with every ounce of our being as parents. The small comfort that we had was kids don't get it. Or if they do get it, they don't get it as bad, right? But now we're seeing they do. They will. They can get it. And they can, healthier or unhealthy, be hospitalized for it, be intubated for it, and die from it. So, is that a risk I'm taking with my only child that I was blessed with? Nope. Never. I think I've said everything sort of that I wanted to say. Oh, I forgot to mention the part about his the special accommodations that the DOE by law has to provide my son wherever he receives his education, right? Because he has an IEP. He has ADHD and he has anxiety. Thank you, by the way, for making that even worse with all of this. Where will you be going to school in 2 weeks? I'm sorry, I can't yet tell you, but don't worry, the adults will figure it out. Thanks for that. But anyway, he has an IEP for which he receives counseling and he receives speech language and a number of other services that you will have to also continue providing him wherever he gets his education. You are in violation of that right now. Should I have to homeschool him? I don't know how these things happen. And don't give me the home instruction. Please save that nonsense for someone who wants a tutor, because that's what that home instruction is. 5 hours per week for elementary age students. That is a tutor. That's a great tutor. 1 hour a day tutoring, that's wonderful. Thank you. But that is not an education. That is not the education that I paid for as a taxpayer. And taxpayer, I keep throwing that word around. Us people in New York City, we pay taxes like crazy. People around the country don't even know the half of it. You pay your federal taxes, you pay your New York State taxes, and you pay your New York City taxes. So I have paid quite a bit for this education that we're talking about, more than other people in the rest of the country whose children also have a right to a free public education. There are services that my kid is not going to get from the jump, from September 13th onward, right? He won't be receiving. Yeah. So I'm not sure. And, you point to pre-Delta numbers. You love to talk about data that you're pulling from pre-Delta, right? School was fine last year. There was a low transmission rate in school. Yes, because you had a fraction of the students that normally attend school actually in school. Most of New York City's parents elected, even after you kept offering those dates to say, oh, you can come back to school if you want. We kept saying, yeah, no, we're good. We're cool. 60% by the end of last school year, June 2021, were still enrolled in remote option. That's what you're afraid of. I know it. This is all about money. You don't want us to keep our kids home because that means we're home working remotely. That means we're not out there spending money at the restaurants during lunch hour. We're not out there shopping at the whatever Macy's after work before we head home. That's what this is about. This is about the economy. It's the economy, stupid. But you know what? This is about my kid. And I don't care about the bottom line dollar. I don't care about the economy. Nothing can replace my child. Nothing. The economy will bounce back. It did after 9/11. It has done. It'll be fine. It's going to be fine. But if my kid's on a respirator, even if he's not, let's say he gets COVID and it's like, I don't know, by some miracle of God, it's fine. It's like a cold, right? I know it won't be because I've seen my kid go from 0 to 60 with the common cold, the common coronavirus. Let's say it's fine. There's long COVID, right? I don't know how long he's going to have any kind of complications from it. There are adults walking around who still have, fatigue, lung issues. I'm not a doctor, but I know I read stories. There are adults who are going to be suffering for many years to come with long COVID, right? We don't even know how long. There's also with children, only with children, the multi-inflammatory symptom disorder, right, that they get afterwards. And by the way, with my kid had the flu, a month later, I was back at the pediatrician's because he was complaining of all kinds of pain in his arms and everything was in his joints. And then in his back, he said it hurt when he breathed in his back. Do you know what that was? Pediatrician said his body is still working through the virus, the flu virus. So he has inflammation throughout his body. What does that sound like to you? That kind of sounds like an inflammatory response to a virus. And I know that he has this because the immunologist told me he has an overactive immune disorder. Hence, I want to keep him home. My son is not the only child like this in New York City. You need to provide this option for parents like me who don't feel confident that he's going to be okay. And you need to provide the option for parents who just don't trust you in general because you haven't either taken care of their schools right, with all kinds of overcrowding, with underpaid teachers, whatever it is. There are parents who just as a rule, don't trust that you can do your job right. So you have to provide that remote option until there's no pandemic. Until we've got the coronavirus or everybody vaccinated against it, you have no business taking remote option off the table. None. And I don't feel like doing the told you so dance in a month. I don't feel like doing it because, like, I know my kid's going to be home, but there are other people whose children will be profoundly. And my heart breaks for them. Maybe those parents won't have the luxury of keeping their kid home, right? Maybe those parents, don't have a caregiver that they, there's a multitude of reasons, but you are forcing parents to make a horrible choice right now. Horrible. How dare you? You know what makes me the most mad is, like, I feel like a right schmuck right now because I phone banked for Mayor de Blasio. You can look it up. Look my name up in your volunteer logs. In fact, my son joined me because I wanted him to see the democratic process at work. I wanted him to see what, it was a wonderful civics lesson in real life. So I took my kid with me. I have photos of my child at your campaign headquarters in downtown Brooklyn, coming with his mommy to phone bank for Mayor de Blasio. Why? Because you had provided, and you couldn't shut up about, 4-year-olds and how their education would be enhanced by them being in school earlier. And I felt indebted to you because I was like, yeah, this is important. And this guy gets it. And now my kid's 9, 10, just turned 10. And you're just like, shrug emoji. You're shrug emoji about, like, my kid's health. But yet when he was 4, he was the most important, amazing thing in the world to you. God, like, that's just I don't know how you sleep at night. I really don't. If I did that with, like, my job, man, I'd feel like crap. I'd have to throw in the towel. I'd be like, God, I really suck at my job. No, not even just like duty, just morals, ethics. Like, what a 180. Education is the most important thing. It's the most important thing. It's so important that my kid has to risk his life. Really? I have to risk my kid's life for his education? No. Anyway, I feel like I don't know if I've covered everything. I wish the media would actually get access to the numbers that we're talking about here, the numbers of the volume of children who will be profoundly affected in New York City, just because they have a respiratory deficiency. They have a weakness, right? This is a respiratory virus. And please don't point me to the studies or whatever that was done last year that said that kids with asthma, there was no significant, whatever, there was, like, some study in October of 2020. I had some family members that shared it with me thinking it would bring me some sense of comfort. I have witnessed with my own 2 eyes what happens to my child when he has upper respiratory illness. And there are children whose asthma is far worse than my son's, uncontrolled. Mine is, relatively controlled, especially so in the past year because he hasn't been in school. He hasn't been getting sick. I mean, every year at school, it would be like one cold after another, one, rescue inhaler, dose after another. And we haven't had to do that for the past year because he's been masked whenever he goes outside until he gets, to where we're going, because we have to walk through hallways in our building. He's been great. And by the way, in remote learning, he was, like, fantastic. The best he's ever been in his whole life as a student. His grades exceeded standards. Check his report card. I'm happy to share it with you. I've shared it with a lot of people. As proof that, this remote learning option, there's something to it. There really is. I mean, I wouldn't want my child to be out of, like, the social network that he has because he loves his friends. but I can make play dates. And I have. We've met many of his schoolmates in playgrounds and had play dates. He's done virtual play dates through Roblox or Minecraft. Like we live in a day and age where like we can do this. So there's something there beyond this moment in time where you have to offer it because it is a medical necessity. You are facing a public health crisis that will go down as your legacy. I promise you. I will make it my life's mission to make sure it goes down as your legacy. And your wife's Charlene McRae. I'm looking at you. If you think you're going to escape the parents who are going to, through horrible nights of worry and fear right now, nope. I will not forget. The callousness, the ignorance, the willful disregard, and not even willing to meet with the parents who have asked you multiple times, Mayor de Blasio, to meet. And I understand you have a personal relationship with some of these parents who have asked you to meet. You've worked with many of them, alongside them. You've been elected because of a lot of their work. And now you turn your backs on them. You don't want to meet with them. You give lip service to them through the chancellor. It's just, I wish what's a stronger word for disappointing? I'm an editor, right? I should, crestfallen, deplorable, disheartened. I'll go on powerthesaurus.com later and get some words for you with how I feel about your leadership through this pandemic. It's just been so disappointing. And now it's dangerous, beyond dangerous, personally. Now it's personal, right? I'm the Michael Jordan meme right now, and I took that personally. This is personal. And what do they say? What, all politics is personal or all politics is local? This is a grassroots movement that you're ignoring right now. And we're going to figure out, these parents, we're going to figure out how to make it happen. We're going to figure out how to get together and boycott in numbers you're never going to believe how many empty seats you're faced with in September, in addition to the infections that sadly will happen in September and October as a result of your disgusting Plan A, right? The only plan. You're going to find out how many of us are serious, because this is serious. Our kids' health is serious. Our kids' health is way more serious, sadly enough, than their education. I know how important in-person learning is to you, but my kid's life is way more important. And you're not treating it with the respect and the attention that it deserves. And I'm just going to keep talking until you hear me. No, actually, I'm not going to keep talking until you hear me, because I don't know. I feel like I'm back on the train, not trying to make, avoid eye contact with the person who I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't want to be around this when it goes down. Because that's what's going to happen September 13th. We're all going to be like, yep, saw this coming a mile away. Got out of that situation fast. Couldn't get out of it fast enough. But why does it have to come to this? Why? Why does it have to come to us boycotting? Why does it have to come to us suing? Why does it have to come to this? Why does it have to come to a lawsuit? Why? Just say, you know what, you guys, you're right. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you before. Do you know how much respect you would get? I could almost respect you at that point. I could be like, okay, you know what? He did wrong. But then he said, you know what? The numbers are different than May when I first said this. I wish we could have gone forward, but unfortunately, we're going to have to offer a remote option. We're not closing schools. We're going to offer a remote option. And this is going to help parents who elect to have their children in school. Here, I'm writing your speech for you, okay? I'm not even going to charge you for this speech. We're not even going to, close the schools. We're going to keep them open So parents who want their children in person can have that, but parents who aren't comfortable or their children can't medically do so will have the option to be remote. And that's going to help everybody. The children in the classrooms, there won't be as many. Therefore, the non-HEPA filters will have a better shot of actually cleaning the air in the classroom. And the children at home, they're going to be safe. So everybody wins. And me as a politician, I get to, ride off into the sunset in January, not being cemented in New York City history as being the mayor responsible for the hospitalizations, if not the deaths of hundreds, if not thousands of elementary school age students. Like, not full disclosure, but I work in communications. I have advised people on crisis communications. I have written crisis communications. So I feel like whoever's in your communications department, I feel for them because they're all looking at each other going, like whenever I read the DOE spokesperson in the news, I'm like, I feel for this person because they know what's happening. And I'm sorry that you have to write this absolute garbage and have your name be attached to it because it's not true. It's garbage. The classrooms, the schools are not this oasis of safety in an otherwise country full of rising case numbers of children and who are getting sick and having to quarantine or being hospitalized. Like, man, I feel bad. I feel bad for those professionals. I feel horrible for the parents like me who are in this position. And my heart breaks for the children who are going to be exposed. And you're like, oh, but they're going to be wearing masks. Yeah, okay, but they got to eat at some point during the day too, though, right? They're going to be in the cafeteria. And by the way, not all elementary school students are all that great at wearing masks for 6 hours at a time. Like my kid complains about, when we go through the building, the hallway, and we got to wear double masks, by the way, double masks. We have to go through the building. And that's like what? A minute? 3 minutes? Tops? Come on, man. This is just so, it's not unrealistic. It's unfathomable, unconscionable. It's deplorable. It really is deplorable behavior, decision-making. Criminally negligent is another word that will come to mind, I'm sure, by some parents in the near future. Criminally negligent. There was a great concern last fall by school leadership that they would be held legally responsible for the reopening, the unsafe reopenings of their schools. And then there was this negotiation, right, that took place where, oh no, you guys won't be negligent, or you are negligent, criminally negligent and responsible, we'll represent you, right, from the DOE. That's horrible that you even have to have that conversation. Like, just don't put people in that position in the first place, Just don't put us in the position where we feel like we have to start looking at, like, legal action, lawsuits, criminal negligence. Like, this is on your watch. This is your job. Make sure that children in this city are safe. Basic stuff. And I don't care how many times how many people you parade out to say this. And by the way, not that many people are willing to say what you're asking them to say. Most of them directly report to you, which says a lot. How many independent of the DOE or independent of the New York City Department of Health or independent of the mayor's office, City Hall, how many are saying, yep, this is the best plan. Plan A is the only plan because it's the best plan. Who's saying that besides the people that have to answer to you or report to you or get their paycheck from you? Who's saying that? What makes you any better right now than the governors in the South that we're looking at and going,
Learn, look, and learn, and then listen to us. We're worried. We have legitimate concerns. And there are doctors, there are health professionals, there are Congress people who are saying the same thing that I'm saying to you right now. Listen. There is a chorus of people who you are refusing to listen to, and you're refusing to give a platform to by meeting with them. There is many parents who feel this way. We just haven't yet figured out how to all get together. But there will be a vehicle. There's a vehicle being built for them to all glom onto. I promise you this. I promise you. It's called class action, and it will happen. And there will be parents that suddenly say, yeah, I've been hoping somebody else was thinking that and saying that. Ugh, I've never understood these car rants when I see them on like TikTok and stuff. I've never understood this. Like, why do people sit in their car and rant for hours? But damn, I could go for hours. I mean, who wants to do errands, right? I could sit here and say everything that's been going through my mind since May when you first announced no remote option. I was like, wow, that's bold. That's a bold projection. How can you look that far in the future? Yeah, the numbers now are going down and things are great, but who's to say what's going on in September? I don't think I would have advised that as a person in his communications department or his, the leadership that surrounds him. I would have said, let's just say we're going to wait and see and we'll make a decision in July. But wow, I know there are people around you who hear what I'm saying and they're shaking their heads, yes. Yep. And I just pray if you don't listen to them, you will listen to a lawsuit. You will listen to a judge. It will come to this. Because this is a legitimate violation of a right to a free public education without endangering your life. And I can prove, like I said, at least 3 different doctors will give me a doctor's note right now because they have seen my son. They have examined my son. They've seen him sick. They've seen him healthy. They've done his blood work. They know what's going to happen if he gets a serious upper respiratory infection. So I have no qualms about saying this is a risk, a serious risk, endangerment to his life. Anyway, I think I covered everything that I talked about at the PEP, and I'm just grateful that I'm teamed up with this group of parents who are just so smart and so resourceful. Having passion is one thing. Obviously, you have to have passion, and any parent can be passionate about the health and safety of their child. But to be knowledgeable, to have the resources, and to have the courage to speak up and the wherewithal to know who to connect with to amplify your voice and your message. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that is what this group is about. This particular group of parents, I thank you. I feel for you because a lot of you have, multiple children to be worried about, and I just have the one. And, the fact that you're willing to put in the work to do the home, because the remote option, it is tough. It's tough. But you know what's more tough is watching your child struggle to breathe, which I have seen. It's one thing if your kid has a broken arm or a bruise and, you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, you're hurt, you're hurting, but it's going to get better. There's not a whole lot you can say when your kid can't breathe. It kind of ranks up there in importance, along with the heartbeat, So my heart goes out to the parents who I've connected with on this, who have multiple children with multiple health issues, some of whom have children with cancer, have family members with cancer. They're rightfully concerned, which, by the way, your cute little handbook the other day didn't even mention anything about siblings or, family members who have health issues. Home instruction only applies to the child, the student, directly, which, another thing, garbage.
with a capital G, all caps. You're just ignoring deliberately, by design. I know you're not this stupid. I know you're not. You don't get this far in politics being stupid. So do the smart thing. Let's have a 180. You can mask it however you want, whatever language you need to use to quietly step away from the precipice with as little fanfare as possible. I'm willing to look the other way and say, okay, I'm not going to do, I'm not going to do any told you so dances. I'm just happy to have this option. However they want to dress it up and whatever they want to call it. But you need to do it, and you need to do it fast, because you're going to have egg on your face when this lawsuit happens, when children get infected, and when children get hospitalized. You're going to have way more than egg on your face. This is going to be something that's like written in history books about you. So I know if this is ego, I'm sorry. This is, your legacy is on the line. And this is your chance to salvage it. Let's do the right thing for our children. Let's offer remote option. They all have iPads in the case of an emergency. This is the emergency. This is it. It's not a weather emergency. It's not an election. This is the emergency. It's a pandemic. It's a once in 100-year pandemic. And if this is an emergency, I don't know what is. Okay, they all have the iPads, and whatever, remote instruction that happened last year, we can improve upon it. We can figure out how to do it better. We can figure this out. But we can't figure it out if you're sitting there with your hands over your ears going, la, 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 la. We can't even, like, if you won't even talk to us, or you don't even have to talk to me anymore. You're like, you don't even have to talk to us. Just do it. Like, let's just get it done and move on. Thank you. Thank you, B-Plag. I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you for the members of the PEP who spoke up 2 weeks ago. To Tom, you guys are just, I can't wait to meet you when this is over, like in person, so I can say thank you. And I wish my politicians who I helped elect, I wish I felt the same about you. But right now, I don't. I want to meet you so I can tell you how disgusted I am by you right now. That's what I want to meet. So, okay. Angry Mom, signing out, hoping for the best. We will make this happen. Parents, we're going to do it. So, thank you.